Proposals and solutions. Mexico's victory at Miss Universe is a global publicity campaign that no government could afford. However, both images share an unsettling thread: the suspicion that something deeply rotten lies beneath the surface. Blocked roads and disputed crowns. Enrique Caballero Peraza, 1959, writer and political scientist. There are days when Mexico seems like a country split in two. In one, farmers and truckers block highways in more than 20 states, fed up with the insecurity, extortion, and assaults they suffer daily. In the other, a young woman from Tabasco, Fatima Bosch, is crowned Miss Universe 2025 in Thailand, becoming the fourth Mexican to win the pageant and filling social media with green, white, and red flags. As a hotel and restaurant owner, I live between these two scenarios. On one hand, the blockades mean cancellations, losses, shortages, and tourists trapped in uncertainty. On the other hand, Mexico's victory at Miss Universe is a global advertising campaign that no government could afford. However, both images share an unsettling thread: the suspicion that something deeply rotten lies beneath the surface. The farmers and truckers didn't block the roads for sport or on a whim. They've been denouncing violent robberies of cargo trucks, kidnappings of drivers, extortion, systematic demands for protection money, and constant threats on routes that were once relatively safe for years. It's not a tantrum. It's a cry for help in the face of organized crime that has taken over highways, toll booths, and even agricultural logistics. From a tourism perspective, however, each blockade is a smokescreen that tarnishes the country's image. Families stranded on highways, tour buses unable to reach their destinations, conventions being rescheduled, hotels with empty rooms because attendees decided to come later. Destinations aren't just competing for beaches, food, or culture. They're competing for something more fundamental: the perception of safety. And in that respect, we're losing ground. It would be very convenient, from the comfort of my air-conditioned reception area, to blame only those who are blocking the roads. But that would be profoundly unfair. Anyone who climbs into a truck to cross miles of highway controlled by criminals is taking a risk that many of us can't even imagine. The same goes for the farmer transporting his harvest, unsure if he'll return with any money, or if he'll return at all. If I, who depend on tourism, am unable to empathize with that fear, then my tourism with a purpose remains just an empty slogan. The underlying problem isn't the blockades themselves, but what causes them. A state that for years has been unable to guarantee road safety and effective justice against those who extort, rob, and kill. If the government only focuses on clearing the highways without addressing the root cause, impunity and territorial control by criminal groups, the blockades will subside today only to reignite tomorrow, perhaps with more anger and at a greater economic cost. Fatima Bosch and the image of Mexico. Let's move on to the other photograph. Fatima Bosch, a 25-year-old Mexican woman, crowned Miss Universe 2025 in Thailand, amidst a spectacular backdrop. From a tourism perspective, it's pure gold. Mexico in headlines worldwide, associated with talent, beauty, resilience, and a story of overcoming adversity. For a country seeking to rebuild itself after hurricanes, violence, and crisis, this kind of visibility is a blessing. But the crown came shrouded in controversy. The pageant was marred by accusations of mistreatment from contestants, the resignation of judges, accusations of vote rigging, and even falls on stage. Days later, arrest warrants have been issued against the two co-owners of the Miss Universe organization. Mexican businessman Raul Rocha Cantu, investigated for alleged links to fuel, arms, and drug trafficking, and the Thai businesswoman, accused of fraud in her country. To make matters worse, potential conflicts of interest have been pointed out. Contracts between Rocha's companies and Pemex. While the new Miss Universe is the daughter of a high-ranking official at the state-owned oil company, fueling suspicions of favoritism and manipulation of the results. The organization denies rigging the pageant, but the damage to its credibility has already been done. There are those who are crying fraud and overshadowing Fatima's own personal merit. As a Mexican, I'm happy that a fellow countrywoman won, and that the world is remembering our country for something other than violence. As a tourism entrepreneur, I know that this victory will translate into increased interest in Mexico, greater visibility for Tabasco, and a positive narrative that can attract visitors. But as a citizen, I can't ignore the bitter taste left by the possibility that the crown may have been tainted by economic interests and opaque power networks. In the end, the contrast is stark. A country capable of producing beauty queens who conquer global stages, yet unable to guarantee its farmers and truckers a safe journey to bring food to our tables and goods to our hotels. We want tourists to fill our hotel rooms, but we don't listen to those who fill the trucks that supply them. And we celebrate a crown, while glancing sideways at headlines about organized crime, corruption, and manipulation. Responsible tourism cannot be built on the suffering of those living in the most difficult parts of the country. It's not about boycotting Miss Universe or demonizing the blockades, but about understanding that the true marketing of a destination lies not in television spectacles, but in the daily experiences of those who live there and travel through it. If the roads are lawless, sooner or later the airports will suffer as well. My wish, as a hotelier who believes in purposeful tourism, is both simple and complex: that the government understands the blockades not just as a traffic problem, but as a desperate message from entire regions, that it sits down to dialogue with the farmers and truckers, and through concrete actions, restores their right to travel without fear. And that while we celebrate Fatima Bosch's victory, we demand complete transparency surrounding the pageant and its organizers. Mexico's prestige doesn't need shortcuts. It rests better on honesty than on dubious crowns. Because it's pointless for the world to see us shining on a stage in Thailand if, when trying to reach our destinations, our own citizens and visitors continue to encounter a darker reality on the roads back home. Let's remember that only together can we generate proposals and solutions.